All right, everybody. We are back for the 2025 season. The unofficial kickoff to the NFL schedule began Thursday night at Tom Benson Hall of Fame Stadium in Canton, Ohio. And it was an ugly, ugly game for your Detroit Lions. It was really messy from start to finish. 5 turnovers for this team in a 34-7 loss that really was just ugly. Like I'm struggling to come up with many positives, and we'll get to all of it in just a second. But I'm Nolan Bianchi. This is Richard Silva, and we are recording from the room 426 of the Marriott Courtyard in Akron. So here we are. Here we are. Got kicked out of the press box a little bit early, so we're trying to make it work. But Richard, what were your overall thoughts about this game?
Exactly what you said, and not only was it sloppy, it was sloppy from literally start to finish. That first opening kickoff, we're sitting up there in the press box, and we're like, "Is that Grant Stewart?" And we're like, "This is gonna be awesome," because we've seen it a little bit in practice. We know how much of an athlete he is, and it was awesome for about 27 yards until he fumbled. And it's funny, we talked to him in the locker room afterwards, and he said that it's weird that. He said basically, like, I still want to be a punt returner, kick returner. Like, I hope that is still a thing that we can potentially do. But he said, I spent so much time learning how to catch the ball properly that I didn't really think about like having to worry about getting hit as a ball carrier, which like I haven't done since like high school, basically.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, just like you said, a sloppy game kind of across the board.
It started and ended very sloppy because the Lions' last play from scrimmage was an interception from Hendon Hooker. We'll start with the QBs because, I think you and I spent a lot of time talking about how it's going to be different this year. It's been pretty ugly in years past with Nate Sudfeld, Tim Boyle, David Blau, the rotating cast of characters that they've had in there in the Dan Campbell era. And what we'd seen from Kyle Allen and Hendon Hooker to this point was pretty positive. I mean, I don't know if Hendon Hooker threw an interception during the first 8 days of training camp. I can think of maybe one.
Not in teams. One-on-one period, maybe.
I could think of 2, I think, from Kyle Allen through the entire 8 days of training camp. So I think we were both going into this game pretty encouraged by what we'd seen from both of those quarterbacks. And then Kyle Allen goes 9 for 13 for 91 yards, 2 interceptions, and a passer rating of, let me find it here, 43.2. So not very good. The offense did move semi-well at times when he was quarterback. He threw a couple of completions to Tesla. There was 24 and 22 yards on consecutive plays. And they're like, okay, just got those pregame jitters out of the way. And then next thing you know, he's throwing a fade route to Tesla in the end zone and just a purely overthrown ball. I think Tesla could have made a little bit of a better play on it, but either way, it went right into the safety's hands. He was just waiting there like a center fielder waiting to catch it. So,
and we talked to, again, Allen and Hooker afterwards, and I asked them both, like, given I think it's fair to say that you guys have had strong training camps, and would you agree? And because of that, are you kind of surprised with how this went? And they both said yes, and Hendon almost laughed. He was like, yeah. He was like, very, very surprised that it went like that. And it was weird. It was like with Kyle Allen, the offense was able to move, but those 2 mistakes were backbreaking. And then with Hendon, it wasn't really like a backbreaking mistake. I know he had the interception, but it's late in the fourth. It's 4th and 2. It was late in the fourth quarter. And honestly, I don't think it was that bad of a ball. Like, Dom Lovett, I'm not gonna say you should catch any ball 50 yards down the field.
Yeah,
but he gave Lovett an opportunity, and the DB just made a good play and snatched it from him. But the issue with Hooker is the offense just had no rhythm. They had I think it was 58 yards on 4 possessions, with 32 of those yards coming on 1 possession. I think the others were 12, 10, and 8, if I'm not mistaken, something of that variety. Just not the performance that we expected, and not the performance that the coaching staff wanted.
Yeah, Hooker was 3 for 6 for 18 yards and 1 interception, a passer rating of 16.7. Not very good. And I think just when it comes to Hooker specifically, I think this was such a big game for him. Whether or not it means anything in the grand scheme of things remains to be seen. But he had such a rocky kind of up and down training camp last year where he had the concussion in the preseason opener against the Giants after leading the team down the field in a really good drive. And then, it just kind of up and down from there. Not a great training camp. And then this year, he looked like a brand new guy. And I think we were all kind of looking forward to seeing what that looked like in a game setting. Unfortunately for him, it just did not show up tonight. Whether it be because he was under fire, he took 2 sacks, but I'm not really sure. But the offense, and to your point, Campbell said it's tough when you come in. They were down 21-7 when he came in the game. After one Chargers possession, it was 24-7, and then from then, you're like, okay, well, do you run the offense just to make sure that he has a normal kind of game flow and and have the ability to get in that rhythm like you talked about, or do you just start chucking it downfield because you want to win the game? And so I do think he was battling with that a little bit, but I also don't think it can be it's enough of an excuse to kind of dismiss maybe just a lack of execution across the board for him.
Yeah, agreed. And Dan Campbell did say that he thought that Hendon did a good job of his checks at the line, which was an improvement from where he was last year. Hendon talked a little bit about, like recognizing what cover 0 looks like pre-snap. And he said on 3rd and 4th down, the Chargers went into it a lot. So, he would go into his like 7-man protections because they're going to send some heat on at him. So that's a step that taking the lines and Campbell and Hooker at their word, that's a step forward, but it's not a step forward that is easy to see. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
For us.
Yeah, absolutely. Couple standout, or actually I do want to talk about the Stewart thing, because that was something that you and I had discussed seeing in training camp and being like, man, that'd be so crazy if they did it in a game. Well, sure enough, they did do it in a game. And actually, I want to say, so they left Stewart in there to return another kick. And I want to say he returned it to like the 37-yard line or something.
Say 36,
something along those lines. So, maybe he does do it. It looks wild when he's out there carrying the ball for a man of his size, but he has enough speed to like almost make it look natural. So
I mentioned this to you in the press box. I don't know how to describe it, but like, when you're talking about like a really good athlete and you're like, that guy just moves different.
Yeah.
And I'm not trying to say like Grant Stewart is like this like LeBron James of an athlete, because that, that's silly. And I don't know if it's maybe like on defense because there's more you got to worry about. There's a lot more going on. There's receivers running around you, and then you got to worry about the run game or whatever. But I think that's why he's such a good special teamer, is that when he just locks on something and is like, run there, he moves different than a lot of other dudes. I think he's one of the best athletes on the team, which is why I am intrigued if they're going to keep up with this kick return thing.
He had the lone sack today, and he got like flipped by a lineman, got up, and just went and chased down the quarterback. Yeah. It was fascinating. So he was definitely one of the positive standouts.
He said that coaches call that hot stove, that you end up on the floor and get up quick. Hot stove. Yeah.
The rookie receivers. We talked about Tesla. Made a couple plays when given the opportunity, and he looks good with the ball in his hands. He looks good running his routes. Obviously, like I just mentioned, he was the target on that one Kyle Allen interception where, I kind of looked at you and I was like, yeah, there's probably a little bit of pass interference on that play, but also would have liked to see him fight through it. Then we saw a different angle, and I think maybe he was kind of just so far out of position that he was able to get knocked off his bearings maybe a little bit easier. But ultimately, I think what you saw from him tonight was positive. Another rookie receiver that we liked what we saw from tonight was Dominic Lovett. He had a drop early in the game and then rebounded quite nicely. And it's interesting with him because it didn't always look clean when he was making plays. He had the drop at first, and then there was another ball where it was kind of a slant route, and he double caught it, but he still caught it, and then came up with a huge catch on 4th and 2 to keep the Lions' lone scoring drive alive. So good stuff from him. He also had a punt return that went 19 yards, which was really good as well.
Yeah, I was going to say did a little bit of everything, right, with the punt return, with the 3 catches, or what it was 3 catches, right?
Yeah.
Or 5, 3, it's a bunch of catches, a few catches. Did that was Gunner for some reps opposite of Tesla. That was another thing.
Tesla had a really good Gunner rep.
Yeah, he forced a fair catch at the 10-yard line. But yeah, I think both the rookie receivers, if you want to take any positives over a 27-point loss in the preseason opener, I think you start with those two. But I think there's another one that we'll probably get to, Hassanin.
Yeah.
I thought he was another guy that stood out, and to the surprise of no one, it was because of his relentless effort and motor, which I think we kind of expected in the preseason that he was going to be able to take advantage of having that. Well, maybe some other guys don't.
Yeah, he had a play. He didn't have any sacks on the day, but he did have a play where he got in the backfield. He forced Trey Lance, the Chargers quarterback, to scramble from the pocket and he ended up throwing it away. I think it was on a third down. I could be missing. It was on a third down. And then he had 4 tackles in the run game, and they were all tackles where it wasn't like, oh, they just kind of ran right into him or anything like that. Nobody forced the ball into Ahmed Hassani when he was making tackles. And I felt like he was always kind of the aggressor. He was diving at guys. And he brought the energy too. Like that's exactly what you wanted to see from him. And as far as just guys who I think met expectations or met the moment, I think he's pretty high up on that list because again, like it was just a weird game all around. Like the defense didn't even play horribly, even though the score would indicate otherwise. But so LA had 6 scoring drives, 3 of them started in Lions territory. One of them started at, I think, the 27. Another one started at the 6, coming off the first Kyle Allen interception where he throws a ball on an out route to Tom Kennedy. It was actually kind of reminiscent of a lot of the passes that Hendon Hooker had picked off in last year's training camp. But he just threw it to him on an out route, didn't get it all the way there, left it inside. Probably should have been a pick 6, but they brought him down at the 6. And then I can't remember if that was the one they got a field goal off of or if they got a touchdown off, but I know
they scored 2 plays later.
And so, yeah, they were put in a lot of really tough situations, but still, gave up three scoring drives on the drives where they didn't start in Chargers territory or in Lions territory. So a little bit to work on there, but ultimately not too many, I would say, overly positive standouts from that unit.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
I know there's a cornerback that you wanted to talk about, a veteran that they signed this offseason.
Yeah, just Rocky Sin. The guy, I mean, how many drives did he end up playing? Not many. Compared to the other guys that started the game. But I thought he didn't get beat in coverage, and then also just in the run game, super physical. And that's a trait that I've noticed a lot in the Lions corners and Terrion and DJ Reed and Yassine. Now we saw it in training camp, and we see it now in the preseason opener. Just not afraid of contact, not afraid to put his face in the fan, and really get after it in the run game. I think that puts him in good graces. He's kind of one of those veterans in that Zach Cunningham, Rock Ya-Sin. There's another one that we were discussing earlier, Pat O'Connor, where it's like these veterans where kind of a coin flip to make the roster, but maybe I lean more so that they're probably going to make the roster. I'm curious if they're going to suit up for the rest of the preseason. With a performance like that, I do think that he, like I said, puts himself in the staff's good graces.
There were 2 cornerbacks, however, who did not have great performances. One of them being Ennis Rakestraw. He was a guy who we kind of had circled as players to watch. Second-year cornerback, really promising training camp and preseason last year, but struggled with some injuries. And today was a big opportunity for him. I think this entire preseason is a big opportunity for him because he just needs reps at this point. He doesn't really have a path to a starting job when everybody's healthy. There's no real chance that he's going to take over Terrion Arnold, DJ Reed on the outside. And it sounds like that's what they want him to keep doing as he develops into an NFL player. And he, I think it was the second scoring drive, just got flat out beat down the sideline for a go ball that was a pretty lengthy completion, something like 27 yards, 28 yards. So that wasn't great. And then DiCaprio Bootle probably had maybe the worst night of anybody, if we're just being honest, because he had a penalty that was a 27-yard pass interference penalty that led directly to a touchdown. He got burnt off the line on a slant route for a touchdown that went 15 yards. And he was just kind of all over the place for the wrong reasons, I thought.
Yeah, and Ennis had a penalty too, the illegal hands to the face on third down. I thought in real time watching it, I was like, was that a penalty? And then unfortunately the TV copy didn't supply a replay, so we'll just kind of have to take the refs, at their word for it.
Oh, I saw it.
But hey, I'll take your word for it then. Big time. No, on third down against Keandre Lambert-Smith, again, the same guy who had the 28-yarder. He had a good game on the Chargers, which is besides the point. But yeah, not great for those 2 guys.
All right. Injury updates. We'll finish off with that. Kenny Yeboah, he got kind of bent in half during a run play sometime in the third quarter, I believe it was. No real update on him, but just assuming that it's a lower body injury. Training staff came out, checked on him. He came out of the game. And then Dan Skipper as well, offensive tackle. He got hurt at some point in the second quarter, something with his left foot, something along those lines, ankle.
He had a boot on.
Yeah, he had a boot on. So we'll call it a left lower extremity, just to be safe there, because we don't know what it is. But in the preseason, they don't necessarily provide the injury updates that they do during the regular season, so we'll kind of have to wait on that. Fun fact: the elevators in the Tom Benson Hall of Fame Stadium were not working when the game ended. So I think there were 3 or 4 media members at Dan Campbell's press conference, but the rest of us completely missed it. So missed out on some opportunity to ask some questions there. So we might have to wait a couple days for Dan Campbell to give us some updates on those injured guys. But other than that, anything else that you wanted to get to before we told the people goodbye?
No, I don't think so. I think that kind of covers it.
All right. Thanks so much. This is our first game recap of the year. Happy to be with you again. Happy to be recapping games again, even though, it's a game we probably don't want to recap too much. But we enjoyed it. And just happy football's back. And we'll be back 1 week later. Lions, Falcons, Friday night. And can't wait.
Can't wait.
Can't wait. Can't wait.